The danger of seeing the signs before everyone else. There is a type of person who is suffering more than others today, not because she is weak, but that's because he's seeing it too early. And this can destroy your faith if you don't know how to handle it. Have you ever felt a tightness in your chest while watching the news? An unsettling feeling that something very wrong is happening, while everyone around you continues living normally. It's like being in a crowded room with loud music, laughter, celebrations, and all you can smell is smoke coming from under a locked door. This unease isn't just anxiety or pessimism, it's perception. It's seeing moral, spiritual, and social patterns that most prefer to ignore in order to preserve the emotional comfort of routine. While the world rushes by, you notice cracks in the structure, and that weighs heavily. Many Christians today experience this silent dissonance. They work, talk, laugh, go about their day, but deep down they know that something essential has been lost. You listen to superficial conversations and feel like you're speaking a language that no one else wants to learn. This isolation hurts. It makes you doubt your own sanity. It makes you think, am I exaggerating? Or has the whole world decided to turn a blind eye? This is the first symptom of what we will call here Noah's syndrome, and ignoring this is dangerous. In this video, we're not going to talk about wood or animals. We're going to talk about the psychology and spiritual burden of those who see the end before it arrives, and how to bear that vision without losing faith or soul. Noah's syndrome is not a clinical term. It's a spiritual definition. It describes the state of someone who receives insight into something that hasn't yet manifested visibly in the dominant culture. Noah received a warning about a catastrophe that no one believed possible. According to scholars, the rain, as it would come in the flood, had never happened before. The blue sky was the strongest argument against his obedience. Imagine the mental strength required to build an ark over decades while everything around seemed normal. No sirens, no emergencies. Just the word of God confronting the appearance of reality. Today, experiencing this syndrome means looking at moral decay, spiritual coldness, and the normalization of sin, and understanding that this is not merely social evolution. These are signs, warnings. It's knowing that the bill always comes due, even when the market is booming, parties are packed, and entertainment is distracting. Noah's syndrome is experiencing the conflict between what you know spiritually and what you see physically. And that doesn't make you crazy. It makes you a sentinel. You are not sad for no reason. You are reacting to signs that the Bible described millennia ago. To understand why you feel so alone, you need to understand the opposite of discernment. The normality bias, a psychological mechanism that causes humans to reject any threat that requires radical change. In Noah's day, people weren't monsters all the time. They were simply indifferent. They married, worked, traded, completely ignoring the spiritual dimension of life. Today, the scenario is the same. The difference is that distraction has been industrialized. Endless social networks, constant consumption, continuous entertainment. Deep thinking has become rare and uncomfortable. People don't stop seeing the signs because they are invisible. They stop seeing because seeing it hurts. Herd behavior reinforces this blindness. If no one around is concerned, then you are treated as exaggerating. That's why raising awareness generates ridicule, irritation, or awkward silence. While you struggle to see, the crowd celebrates the illusion of stability. And this daily contrast is what drains your soul. Jesus was precise, almost cruelly honest in Matthew 24. He said the end would come as in the days of Noah, and the most terrifying detail wasn't war or famine, it was normal. People ate, drank, married, and were given in marriage. Everything seemed fine. The problem wasn't eating or getting married. The problem was living as if eternity didn't exist. When routine occupies all the space of consciousness, vigilance dies. Today we live under the dictatorship of urgency. Bills, deadlines, aesthetics, status. Everything seems more real than God. The return of Christ becomes a distant, almost symbolic concept. Apparent tranquility is the greatest deception. The world doesn't need to be in flames to be on the brink of the abyss. Sometimes, silence is the most dangerous sign. Those who suffer from Noah's syndrome grieve to see distracted souls as time runs out. Because distraction doesn't need to deny God, it only needs to make him irrelevant. Seeing someone early comes at a social cost. Noah wasn't just ignored, he was ridiculed. Building an ark on dry land seemed like madness until the first drop fell. Today, anyone who takes the Bible seriously is labeled fanatic, intolerant, exaggerated. Modern culture punishes those who threaten its narrative of progress. You feel friendships dissolving, conversations becoming shallow, not for lack of love, but for lack of spiritual alignment. This discomfort is a mark of authenticity. A Christianity that fits perfectly into the world is not following Christ. Don't be disturbed by the laughter of those who sleep. Mockery always precedes judgment. And being alone in truth is better than being accompanied in illusion. Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes that he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. And this is an absolute truth for those who possess spiritual discernment. Seeing what others don't see isn't a fun superpower. It's an emotional burden that often brings us to tears and anguished prayer in the middle of the night. Discerning the times means seeing Satan's traps disguised as freedom, culture, or entertainment, and suffering as you watch loved ones fall into them. It's like watching a car speeding toward a precipice while the passengers sing and dance, completely ignoring your cries of warning. This pain of knowledge generates a specific kind of weariness, a fatigue of the soul that comes from constantly being on high alert and vigilant. Often you may wish for a moment to be ignorant again, just so you can enjoy life with the same irresponsible lightness as those around you. But God didn't give you this discernment to torture you. He gave you this vision because he trusts your ability to intercede and prepare. The suffering you feel is, in fact, a participation in the heart of God, who is also deeply saddened by the blindness and hardness of heart of humanity. Therefore, do not try to numb this pain with the same distractions of the world, nor close yourself off in cynicism and bitterness towards people. Use this burden as fuel for prayer, for discernment is the primary tool for protecting your life and those whom God has placed under your care. The clearest sign that we are living through a critical moment in history, similar to the pre-flood period, is the complete inversion of fundamental moral values. The prophet Isaiah warned, "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil." And this is an exact description of the headlines and laws we see being passed today. What was once considered virtue, such as the traditional family, chastity, and public faith, is now attacked as oppression, and what was vice and sin is celebrated as freedom and identity. This is not just a cultural shift, it is a deliberate spiritual agenda to confuse the moral compass of future generations. For those with Noah's syndrome, witnessing this inversion is like seeing the structure of reality being dismantled brick by brick. You realize that there is no longer common ground for debate, because the basic definitions of truth, biology, and morality have been hijacked and redefined by the spirit of the age. This inversion is the hammer striking the construction of the ark. Every time society celebrates something abominable in the eyes of God, the prophetic clock ticks. This is not merely about political disagreement, but about realizing that divine patience has a limit, and that moral confusion is always the prelude to judgment. Stand firm in biblical definitions, even if the world's dictionary changes daily and tries to force you to use the new language. Truth is not democratic and does not depend on the approval of the majority. It remains the same yesterday, today, and forever, and it is your anchor in this sea of relativism. It is vital to make a clear distinction here. Having Noah's syndrome does not mean living in panic, biting your nails, and desperately hoarding food. Noah was warned of the end of the world, and instead of collapsing nervously, he worked methodically, calmly, and reverently for decades. Fear paralyzes, generates anxiety, and makes us make hasty and selfish decisions. Biblical preparation, on the other hand, brings peace and purpose. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and it was this holy fear that moved Noah, not the human dread of death or catastrophe. Many Christians today are confusing vigilance with paranoia, consuming bad news until they become ill. which does nothing to help God's plan. True preparation is spiritual and mental. It is strengthening your faith, teaching the truth to your children, and being ready to meet God at any moment. God never gives a warning of judgment to terrify his children, but to offer a way of escape and an opportunity for salvation. If you see the signs, the right response is not to dig a hole in the ground to hide, but to lift your head, for your redemption is drawing near. Transform your anxiety into productive action in the kingdom. Replace time spent worrying with time spent reading the Word and serving others. The ark was built with work, not tears. Your emotional stability in the face of chaos will be the greatest testimony to those who are desperate. If the flood today is moral and spiritual, the ark is not made of gopher wood, but of eternal principles and the presence of Christ. Building your ark today means creating a refuge within your home, where the lies of the world are not allowed to enter and dominate. This requires an intentional effort to filter what enters through the eyes and ears of your family, establishing clear boundaries against toxic culture. Just as Noah had to seal the ark inside and out so that water wouldn't enter, you need to seal your mind against ideologies that try to shipwreck your faith. The ark is also the community of genuine faith. No one survives a flood alone, and you need to be connected to others who also see the signs. Finding people who share this same worldview is essential to maintaining sanity and spiritual strength in evil days. But above all, the ark is Jesus Christ himself. Being in Christ is the only guarantee of safety when the floodgates of the abyss open. No matter how high the waters rise in society, those who are firmly established on the rock will not be shaken, for their security does not depend on political or economic circumstances. Begin hammering your ark today through prayer, Bible study, and consecration. Don't wait for the rain to start before seeking shelter. The door of grace is still open, and your job now is to ensure that you and your household are inside before God closes it. If you've watched this far and identified with every word, understand this. You are not a mistake of the system. You are part of the remnant. In every crisis in biblical history, God has always preserved a group of people who did not give in, who kept their eyes open and the flame burning. The feeling of not belonging that you carry is, in fact, the mark of your heavenly citizenship pulsing within you. God allowed you to see the signs before others not so that you would feel superior, but so that you could intercede and serve as a beacon in the darkness. Do not wish to be blind like the crowd, for ignorance may be a temporary blessing, but it exacts an eternal price. Thank God for discernment, even if it hurts, for it is what keeps you on the narrow path that leads to life, while the wide path leads to perdition. You are not alone. There are thousands, perhaps millions, who feel exactly the same spiritual butterflies in their stomach that you feel. We are Noah's family scattered across the earth, awaiting the promise and working while it is day. If this video was a relief to your soul and confirmed what you already felt, subscribe to the channel right now. Here we don't ignore the signs. We study them to be prepared. Join us in this vigilance. Until the next video.